Hi everyone, welcome to A Harmony Nail Spa training. My name is Paula Sadler and I will be doing a dip manicure, a dip with a tip, one acrylic, and we're going to go over gel just to do a review, a gel polish, a review on some of the basic application techniques. So first with your client, make sure you sanitize yourself and them, rub together. Okay, then we're going to have our client choose a shape of their nails. And what shape would you like? Okay, this client has chosen a square, oval, or squoval. So we use our shape guide and try to get them to the as close as possible to the photo or any other photos they give us. So always start out with your shape. We will have done a consultation and be talking with the client about what challenges they're having, all the basic questions that we do for our services. They'll also be given our beverage menu and for them to look at. Once they've chosen a beverage, they're also going to get a neck pillow. We do some complimentary eye gels for first timers, and also our chocolate peanut butter balls and Ticino samples. And the way it basically goes is first the client is going to check in, then they'll come choose their color, whether it's gel or regular. They'll come to the seat. You'll select a nail shape. Then after that, so you're not overwhelming the client, then you'll make sure that you give them the beverage menu, give them some time to review it. They'll select a beverage. They'll get hot or cold neck pillow. We'll start bringing them the complimentary upgrades as that goes along. And be sure not to interrupt them during the consultation. So we need to give time for the technicians to do a proper consultation before bringing the samples. And the consultation, we spend a few minutes with that. After the consultation, we make our any appropriate upgrades, suggestions, and after that, they're given one last menu, and that will be our Harmony Nail Studio upgrades. And we simply tell them, here are some other upgrades and add-ons. If you see anything that you like, please let me know, or if you have questions. And they may not select a service this time, they may be selecting it for their next visit. These are double-sided, and so there's lots of great options, anywhere from $10 and up. And you could be double or tripling your tickets by them simply selecting all on their own. And that's a wonderful way for them to have a little bit of power and choice. Okay, so this client already has their nails filed basically, but I want to show up close what we have here. This cuticle definitely needs work, and this one, so they need a little bit of pushing and nipping. Let me just go over that. So we're going to make sure you take off the edges of the file with another file. These files are very sharp, so you simply take a brand new file and rub one side like this, and next, and over and over. Now that file's ready. They're super sharp, and you'll cut a client, especially after they've been soaking in water, for a manicure or for a pedicure. So we always ask the client, what shape would you like? Also, what's their goal for their nails? So are they looking to keep their length? Do they want to grow their own natural nails out? Are they trying to get extensions and go longer? All of these questions are really important. So for this client here, we're actually going to be doing a couple of tips. So we're going to be adding some length. We'll just assume that this client wanted some length. So she said she wanted square, oval, or squoval. They're already kind of in that shape. What you want to look for is consistency all the way across, make them as even as possible and all the same length as possible, unless there are a few that are much shorter than the rest. And as in this client here, this one is much shorter than all the rest. And if they're trying to grow their nails out, sometimes the client will say, oh, make them all the same. And then we make the mistake, we cut them all down to this length, but really they were liking this length. And so we don't want to do that. You don't want to upset a client because it's kind of like, with hair. If they say to take an inch off and you take 4 inches off, client's going to be really upset. So it's really be sure that you're meeting the client's needs. I never assume, because what happens when you assume, you make a what out of me and you. So, okay, or out of you and me. So we're going to do a little shaping, and this one I'll do the gel polish on. So I'm just getting those sides a little bit, not too much. It depends on what the client likes too. They may show you a picture of a very narrow nail that they like, a narrow coffin. And be sure when you're selecting the shapes, you clarify with the client and use pictures. Is it a pointed almond? Is it a soft almond? Is it a narrow coffin? Is it a wide coffin, which would be really more of a tapered square? If it's round, make sure it's round and not oval and pointed. If it's oval, make sure it's oval. And now we have two kind of squares. We have square with rounded edges, which is basically the squoval, and then we have square straight across with sharp edges. Some clients really like that look. They want that very sharp edge. They want crisp, clean lines, and if they don't get it, they're not going to be satisfied because it doesn't match what they just saw in the magazine or on their best friend. So I'll show you one here. I'm doing, so we have a squoval, and now we have a sharp straight across. Also, I'm going to turn it this way because for me, I tend to file it a bit at an angle, and if I'm not careful, one of my sides is usually up higher than the other. But that's just me, so make sure you're looking at the nails from all directions. And just for fun, we're actually going to do this one a different shape. This is just for demonstration purposes. So how about we round this one out because we're going to put a tip on it anyway. So there we go. We have a beautiful, nice round nail. We'll leave this one squoval. I'm not going to do too much more prepping on the rest. I just wanted to go over some basic nail shapes. And obviously, not every client is suited for every kind of nail shape. So if we are doing a gel manicure, we do a waterless gel manicure because we don't want the nail soaking up water. We use our cuticle eliminator. If I touch the skin, I've now contaminated this product. There could be staph in here, and now you're going to cause a cuticle infection, and it's against state board regulation. So you just simply drop a nice little drop right there, 3 inches away, at least a few inches away. You can use your hand as a guide to stop your hand from going further. And we're just going to drop that on there. And we're going to do a drop. You really don't want to push a dry cuticle, but you can if you really need to, but really preferred not to. On this hand, say we're doing a regular manicure, spa manicure, express manicure. We're going to say that I've shaped all these already. Now I'm going to drop one drop of cuticle eliminator on there. And then also we're going to do a drop if they're not getting gel. If they're not getting gel, we are going to be doing a drop of solar oil. If they have gel polish, we'll do this at the end. This is creating what we call a moisture pack. Make sure you explain to the clients and educate them along in the process what you're doing. If you touch a product, you talk about it, touch and tell. So this one here, I've applied cuticle. This is our solar oil cuticle oil, and as you're applying it, this has vitamin E, sweet almond, and jojoba, and this is good for daily nail strengthening, moisturizing your cuticles, and also eliminating hangnails. This will help your acrylics and gel manicures and all enhancements to last longer because a healthier nail retains the product better. So make sure you educate them and tell them that. Okay, so moving on. We're now going to push. Many nail technicians and at salons do not push the cuticles before they apply enhancements. And what this does, it causes the nail beds to look shorter and a poor grow out experience and lifting towards the back of the cuticle. So you do want to make sure that you do a minimum amount of pushing to release any dry dead skin, any cuticle on top of the nail plate. And this will extend the nail plate, make the nail beds look longer, more beautiful. You'll get a better application, less prone to lifting, and also a beautiful finish and manicured finish. We're also going to go over this with the e-file. If you're doing any enhancements, you do still want to go over that with your e-file. Some clients have very dry, thick cuticles that really have to have an e-file to take off that excess cuticle. Okay, so we've pushed. Now, you may have a client that comes in that has beautiful nails, beautiful cuticles. They really don't look like they need any maintenance at all. They don't even look like they need to be pushed, but a client is paying for a service. So regardless of how much cuticle they may or may not have, we're still going to shape and at least go over the steps and the movements, and we're still going to push, and we're still going to nip. Say this client, like, she didn't have much here, right? I'm still going to go from one end, I'm going to go around all the way to the other, because in the eye of the client, they've just received cuticle maintenance, and they really feel like something's being done, even though nothing was really being done. You may be only picking up a tiny bit of cuticle. So it's really important, because if you don't do that at the end of the service when the clients are checking out and say they're paying $45 for a gel manicure or a manicure, and you actually didn't push the cuticle and you didn't nip the cuticle, what they're going to say is, the nail technician did not do my manicure properly. And they're going to say that you didn't nip, you didn't push, you didn't nip. You can prevent all of that by simply going through the motions. Now, if they have lots of cuticle, yes, it is going to take you longer to go through and to get rid of that excess cuticle. But if they don't, you're just going through the motions. And it's a wonderful technique. It lets them know you're paying attention. You're doing a great job. So we're just going through this. So all of our full sets and all of our extensions, all of our dip, it all comes with pushing and nipping as needed. Like I said, you just go through the motions. If they don't have much, guess what? You don't have much to do. It just makes your job that much faster. But you're going to have many clients, probably 50 to 75% of clients, who really do have excess cuticle that needs to be nipped away before you can do any kind of enhancements. Okay, so we've done that. Let's go ahead and on to the next, because this one's just going to be a regular manicure. So we're going to do pushing. Shaping shouldn't take you any more than 5 to 7 minutes at best, probably less. About 5 minutes really for natural nails, 10 to 15 minutes on acrylics, depending on the level of thickness and the shape desired, and also what shape those nails are in when they came to you if you're doing a fill. But for a 25-minute manicure, you're looking at about 5 minutes to push and nip, 5 minutes to file. You're looking at about 5 minutes to polish. You're going to be applying a moisturizing lotion and oil, and that'll take you another just few minutes. So it's easy, as you can see, how the time builds up. If you have a gel manicure to do and they have existing gel or dip to take off, you're looking at least about 10 minutes to removal to 15, depending on how thick that dip or those gels are, and whether you're using foil wraps, a soak off, or if you're using a remover product, such as the gel remover product. If you're nipping on a client and you don't feel them really cutting very smoothly, and you feel like you're pulling on the skin, get another pair of nippers and send those nippers away to be sharpened. We have a sharpening bag that we put them in and send them off to Colorado. They should cut like butter. So, okay. All right, so on this hand, we're going to assume that we already did all the filing, and after nipping, then you take your yellow buffer, your soft grit, and we're just going to do a little buffing away. You don't want to buff to where you're making their nails thin, but you're actually prepping it for polishing. You're going to seal the edges, and you're also removing any excess cuticle that's at the on the nail. So in the cuticle area. And also this will lift up any other bits of cuticle that might need to be nipped away if they're not able to be gotten. So for that, you can go over it one more time with your pusher and gently push back, paying attention to your edges. This is really needed sometimes for clients who have not had a manicure in a very long time, or it's their first manicure and they have heavy cuticle buildup. So you always want to wipe downwards to get rid of any excess skin and cuticle, and it's really going to open up to let you know if you have other cuticle that's now lifted up and ready to come off, like this one here. That was all happening because we pushed again. So we can simply go around and get those little bits of skin off of there. Okay, and there's one more right here as well. We're going to get that right off of here. Okay, and then here, see, you have tiny bits. We have tiny bits of cuticle here. We're going to get this off of here too. Okay, great. So this hand, and you know, I'm going to go ahead and just file this anyway because we're into this now. So she said that she wanted Scoville. So you should never have papery edges on your nails. It's very important that you file them at the right angle to seal the edges on the sides and at the tip of the nail, that you're getting everything as even as possible. It's really terrible, and you know you've done a bad job when you go to polish and there's little tiny papery edges of the nail that are sticking out on the side or coming up from underneath, and now your polish doesn't look clean. It looks ruddy and it looks uneven because there's actually little bits of papery edges of nail that are sticking out on the sides and underneath because you failed to file them properly or take your buffer and seal those edges with one swipe that I'm going to show you how to do at the end. And that will also give you the not so perfect finish, and your client will look at their nails. They may look okay in the nail studio, and as soon as they get out into the light and really look at them in the sun, they're going to think their 2-year-old has now done their nails and that they could have done a better job at home with their eyes closed. So, okay. You definitely don't want to file their nails more narrow than their own width of their nail, unless the client has super wide or eggshell nails and they really can't stand the way they look, and you know you're not going to get a better look without really taking them down a bit. Okay. So before we polish on the natural manicure, I will apply some more cuticle oil to moisturize, lotion the whole arm, either do the whole 10-minute hand massage or the basic 1 minute smoothing on with an express. And then we're going to clean. Well, let's go ahead and put some oil. Let me show you what it actually looks like in real time. Remember, touch and tell. Whenever you touch a product, you're going to tell and educate about it. You only have to do it one time per service. And we'll go ahead and put on some lotion anyway because their skin looks a little dry. The client will select their lotion and toner from the list. Toner only comes with the manicures and not with the spa pedicures unless they have some allergy or don't like the Biofreeze. Biofreeze is actually the toner, and it has essential oils in it like lemon balm and menthol. Okay, so we really call this the teaser massage, and as you're applying your 1 minute just arm down 1 minute massage, you can, if they hadn't selected a massage, you can ask them at the time, would you like me to keep going? Would you like to add on the full hand and arm massage for 10 minutes? And if so, you can show them the menu where it's $10 or say it's just $10 more. Make sure you lower your voice when you're doing any upgrades and telling them the price, but you tell me how it sounds. Would you like to add on a hand massage for just $10 more? Or you could say, and wait for them to say. Sometimes they'll begin to say, oh, that feels so good. Well, if you like that, we can do the full hand and arm massage. It's 10 minutes for just $10. Would you like to add that on? So there is a difference in your tone of voice. Okay, so that's done with that. Okay, and then say we're getting ready to polish. Don't spray the client with alcohol. Would you like alcohol sprayed on your body? So spray it on your brush downwards, and I'm going to go ahead and brush underneath too. I need to make sure I've cleaned under the edges as well. You can use an orange wood stick, or you can use your the edge of your pusher. So, orange wood stick. We're going to clean up. Guess what that's doing too? It's not only cleaning up under the nail, I'm now releasing any other papery edges that need to be buffed off, or you're going to have a terrible polish application and it's not going to be professional. They could do that at home. Make sure you give them something that they can't get at home that is really much better than they can do. So it did release a tiny bit right here, but I already really took care of that with my file. So this is what we do at the end. I'm now sealing the edges and getting any papery edges off. It's going to look much better. If you're doing a regular manicure, find a clean edge of your towel for regular polish. You don't have to use a lint-free wipe. You can just spray your towel. Once again, don't spray the client who wants toxic alcohol put on them. And we're just cleaning the nail plate, so I didn't just spray on their skin. Now she had a little extra polish on there. Here's a little trick. Don't do cotton. Just put a little right there with your alcohol and scrub it off, a little acetone. And that should just come right off. Well, this looks like it might have been some other product, but that's okay. But if you have a little regular polish on there, you can clean that up with alcohol and acetone. So I'm just scrubbing the nail plate. I'm also using my nail as kind of another pusher. I'm pushing once again. I'm kind of cleaning up and pushing at the same time. And really cleaning. That is now ready for polish. So do your base coat. And at that time, after you've cleaned up, you also may reveal that you have more dry skin. You may have little bits that you didn't get the first time, or they've been exposed or pushed back. And don't just assume you're done with your job. Go once again, do one final check, because this should be photo finish ready for a magazine when you're finished. Every time we do hair, facial, nails, waxing, makeup, manicure, pedicure, polishing, acrylics, a professional job means that you're actually ready for a photo shoot. That's how good it should look, that you're ready for a magazine. That's the quality of standard that you're looking to achieve. If you don't have that, keep practicing. Okay. Now, actually, she had some kind of product on here. I see like a little bit of pink or whatever that is, and I really don't want to soak. So I'm just going to take my file.
Underneath.
What is that?
It's underneath.
Oh, okay. No, there was some pink gel or something here. So we just got that, and now I'm just going to wipe that dust off because I don't want that on there. So, also, if you haven't gotten rid of all of your dip product or your gel or a former acrylic, it could leave the surface kind of rough and uneven. And when you go to polish, especially a white or cream color, it's going to come out and it's going to make your manicure look terrible. You will not be able to get that underneath, because remember, everything starts with your base. If you have a great base to start with, smooth and beautiful and clean, that's exactly how your layers of polish are going to go on. I mean, you can only cover up so much damage with polish. I mean, if they have little ridges or divots in their nails or dips, some of that will be covered, but not all of it. So we're going to let that dry. Okay, and then next, now this was the one that we're going to do some tips on. So she still needs a bit of an e-file. I still like to go everything with an e-file. Okay. And we're going to do a tip. I'm going to do this one, gel manicure. We'll do a tip with dip. We'll do a tip with acrylic. And we'll just do a dip here. And I'm just going around very lightly. This is how gentle it should be. You should be able to touch your own skin and not cut yourself. If you have cut yourself, you need to take those edges off because that's not safe. You can create a safety drill bit by just simply taking the brand new drill bit and putting it on the edge of your file just lightly to take off the super sharp brand new edges. Coupa manufacturer train that way, and also, nowadays you can buy safety drill bits that are already, the edges are already taken off. Sometimes they're not, and you do have to prep them to get ready for use on clients, because literally it's just sharp, super sharp metal like a Ginsu blade, and you will slice and dice cuticles. That's what happens when clients come in and they say, oh, they cut me. I went somewhere else and they just cut my cuticles. I was bleeding so much. They pushed me and they nipped me and they cut me, or they cut me with the clippers, or they cut me with the electric file. That is not beauty. That's torture. Don't do that. So it should be very gentle. I'm not creating extra ridges in the nail. I'm not going deeply into the natural nail. I'll prep one more. Well, let me show you the before. See a little bit here, all that's going to come up with the e-file. So we're just going to go around. Look at that. Look at that extra cuticle coming off of there. Isn't that beautiful? Just want to get rid of all that. So there we go. So we got rid of all that. There was still some cuticle to come off of there. Now we need to prep it and get it ready for the nail tip. So we're going to use our sanding mandrel and sanding band. I just got these from a press nail. I don't really like the pink because I found out some of the pink comes off on the nails. I like the regular old-fashioned ones, but I have them now, so I got to use them. So it's a little extra cleanup step when sometimes the pink will come off on the nail, depending on what kind of service I'm doing. So I could have done this by hand, as we learned, as I learned almost 30 years ago. But I use my sanding band and e-file because I'm saving myself from carpal tunnel syndrome or repetitive injury syndrome. And you see how gentle I am. All I'm doing is taking the shine off the nail. If I just press a little bit harder, I will be actually digging into the nail plate and taking off very important layers of nail. I didn't do that. There should be no heat and no burning on the client. If your client jumps back and they say that's hot, you press too hard. Also, you do have to take the edges off of your sanding mandrels. I think I did that earlier, but just a tiny little bit, and that just makes it a little safer, where you can do some work without cutting or scraping. Okay, now that's done. I've already pre-sized the tip. Make sure that your tip fits side to side. And I leave the dust on the nail because the dust actually acts as a buffer to help fill in when you're doing your tip. Now, some nail technicians, at least with our press Gel X, we prep it either with a liquid primer on the inside of the nail, and you can just a tiny little prepping. It is going to make it stay better. Now we've just roughed up the surface just a tiny bit. So I can take a nail brush. I'm going to leave my dust on there, and now we're going to, I'm going to leave the dust on the nail, but I don't want it in here because I need to apply glue. Okay, and we have our nail glue. Make sure you have a paper towel handy and ready when you're doing your glue. Otherwise, you're going to ruin your towels, and towels are expensive by the dozen. So I love using this product. Hurry up, dry. We're going to just spray on the nails. That's it. That's all that's needed. If you sprayed enough, it'll dry instantly, 1 second or less. So, I personally like to apply my nail glue here. Some like to put a nail tip on and put it behind there and put it on. That's not how I do it. Everyone's a little different. And then I just want to make sure I get it on straight and done. Boom, done. That's as quick as it is. No air bubbles, no air pockets, a nice, good, tight seal. The next one, same thing. You want to make sure you have enough glue, that it's not so much that it's getting out all over the places on the sides and underneath, but you're still making a nice, tight seal. I have that nail straight on, and I'm going, you only have a second to work with it. It's done. Has a nice curve, a natural curve going down. I don't want to come up, and you don't want to overextend down unless they like a super curve. You can either use a super curved tip or curve the nail tip down. It'll create a space here. You're going to file some of that down and fill it in with acrylic anyway to give a more curved nail. So this client, but we know what kind of nail she wants because she showed us a picture in the beginning. And some other options is very popular nowadays, straight, flat nails. It's just a trend. It's what a lot of clients like. And we do have, to accommodate that, you have a straight tip. It would not be considered natural. It's not a natural look. Nails don't grow naturally that way. So there's a nice straight line. You're going to do a nice, beautiful straight nail. That's maybe how they want it. You can see a natural curve to this one here. Then you also have your ultra curved tips. Maybe clients like that. They saw a picture online. They just love the way it looks. This is a little bit more of a curve. I'm going to show you the depth of this curve if we stay the full length. You can see they curve down almost like a claw. There, sorry, let's see, right here. So these are curving down compared to, look at the curvature there. And also it gives more of that whole sculptured look when you're doing a tip like this. These are definitely more natural. And then once again, the perfectly straight, and look at the difference going straight out. All different looks. Make sure you give the client what they're looking for, because if they come in and they want a straight nail and you gave them a curved nail, they're not coming back to you. They're not going to be happy. You're getting a bad review. If you're giving them a curved nail and they wanted a straight nail, same thing. So really be specific. It's very important. A lot of nail techs miss that, and they end up having dissatisfied clients, and then they go somewhere and complain because no one can seem to do their nails right. Okay, so now, next. Just for fun, why don't we cut this one down and do it into a... Also make sure you ask the client what length they want. We have a length guide we go by, so we have active, we have medium long, we have extra long or full length. All different prices, 65 I believe to 95 and up. So make sure that you're getting the right, I want to do one that's a little bit longer because I want to show a, I want to do a narrow coffin, and you can either use scissors or, so if we left it like it was, it'll be kind of wide. It'll be kind of a wide square that could have been. Now we can cut this down, and you can either do a tapered square, which some people think it's a coffin, but it's really not. I call it a tapered square, but so let's start out with a tapered square. So it's only going to be slightly tapered on the sides. So here we go, we're shaping this into a tapered coffin. A tapered square or a very slight coffin. It's not, if you really look at some photos online, you'll see that there's so many differences. To me, I just think it's a square. I think the real coffin is kind of like a stiletto with a square tip. It's really what it looks like, but it depends on what the client wants. They just may like them slightly tapered. Do they want them full length width? And when I add acrylic, it's going to get more bulky too on the sides just a little bit. Same with this one here. That's a nice shape. Now they show me a picture where they want a very narrow coffin. So you can either cut it down a little more, or let's just shape it in. Let's just narrow that tip, almost like you're doing a stiletto, but without the point. And now we have a coffin, a really more narrow coffin. So there we go. Get those little papery edges out of there. You don't want that under there. There we go. So now we have a beautiful narrow coffin. That one's nice. So this one here, why don't we do a stiletto? Because stilettos you really have to build differently. And you can use scissors too. I'm just using my nippers. Okay. Let's do a nice point on this one. Now we already have stiletto tips, which are easier to use. You can use those or just simply cut and shape. Mine takes a few minutes. So we could have done an almond, which would be a nice rounded point, or we could, and you have to really clarify with your client, do they want a sharp pointed almond, stiletto like a dagger? Some clients will really want that sharp point. If they do, that's great. They can pick up cocktail olives with those. So great little bar trick. Okay, or poke someone's eye out. They could be deadly weapons, really. Okay, so here is a sharp stiletto. And if we want to make it into an almond, all we have to do is kind of round that out a little bit. You could take your stilettos down by rounding them out. Almonds sometimes have a little bit more body on the side, but you know, so do they want a soft almond or do they want a pointed almond but not quite a stiletto? So once again, it's just about being, they say, oh, I want a soft almond. Okay, great. So I'm going to turn this into an almond and I'm going to slightly round that tip. Now they have a soft almond. Oh, no, I want a sharp, narrow stiletto. Okay, well, let's make that into a sharp, narrow stiletto. Okay, back to the stiletto. There we go. Okay, so now next step, make sure you take your shine off of your tip, because guess what? Acrylic's not going to stick to that. And so I'm going to take that shine off, and I'm going to blend the tip. I'm going to blend out that. Remember, whatever's underneath is going to show up in that acrylic, especially if they decide they want to go clear. They may decide at the last minute, oh, you know what? I don't want that color after all. I want to go clear. And guess what? If you have not prepped it correctly and you got air bubbles in your tips, or you've done something and left some kind of product or stain or something on that nail, it's all showing through now. No going back. It's too late. They may decide to tell you that. So always prep your nails as if they're going to be going perfectly clear. That's going to give you the best look possible. And if a client has some major staining or something going on that's going to show through, just let them know in advance so there's no surprise. And say, well, I cleaned these up as well as I could, but you have this here or this discoloration. We can't get that out, so some of that may show if you decide to go clear or in a French. And it's really important that they know what it's going to look like or have a realistic expectation. So, just take we want to prep this and get ready for acrylic now. For this one here, we're doing the gel. I still need to buff. This is going to take some of that shine off and prep it for the gel. So we said we were going to do gel polish here. And I got that edge done. The same with this one. This one's going to be a dip. So for the dip, I'm going to go ahead and use my yellow buffer, but I'm going to do one step more. You can either use your sanding mandrel or go by hand. I want to take the softer side, and I just want to take the shine off, and I want to take any smoothness off that nail because we want to prep it so the product really stays on the nail. And I'm not thinning the nail, I'm not overly filing, but I am taking that shine off, just like I would if I put a tip on. That is now ready for a dip. You can, if you really want to, you can either do it by hand or simply take your sanding mandrel and go over that. So here we go. And I like to do that because I can get much better prepping. I forgot what we said we're going to do on this one. But it seems to be there's some product on here left over.
That's the one you fixed last time.
Oh, okay. So let's go ahead and prep it up. Yeah, there's some acrylic, I think, on here. Maybe.
Glue and acrylic.
Oh, a dip. It's just some acrylic with glue, just as a temporary fix. Okay, so we have this. Oh, and you know what? I just noticed I did not even do anything with this nail. I didn't file it. I didn't do anything. But now we're kind of in the middle of this whole thing, so let's just go ahead and prep it a little bit and get it ready. Okay. All right, and I think we'll go over it with this one. I don't know what we're going to do to it, but we'll do something to it. Okay. Oh, I see what we did. There was a crack in the edge of this nail, so we did some glue and some powder so it wouldn't crack here all the way across and save her natural nail with just a little acrylic powder and glue. I think two coats, kind of like a dip but with no dip, just sprinkling it on. Okay, there we go. That one is now prepped, looking a lot better. There was a lot of cuticle there. We still need to get back there because that nail is too smooth back here to put any product on. And take that shine off of there. Okay, looking good. Look at that. I love it. Okay, that's done. So now dust off for your dip or your gel manicure. Lint-free pad. Scrub Fresh. Scrub Fresh, why is it so special? Is it special? It's basically a combination of acetone and alcohol. So it's a dehydrator with a pathogen fighter in it with a little bit of coloring. That's how exciting it is. Same thing. Always prep for all of our acrylics, dip, and gel, or anything with an artificial enhancement. You can do your lint-free pad and Scrub Fresh. Scrub Fresh is not needed for a regular polish. You can achieve dehydration and cleaning with just your alcohol and your towel. You're wasting product otherwise. Okay, next, primers. Okay, we're going to use our no-lift primer. If a client has very thin, weak nails, just do one coat. If they have regular natural nails that are healthy, I like to treat all clients that they are prone to lifting, and I will do a double prime on all nails that are not excessively thin or damaged. This client's nails, she's almost on the thin side, so I'm just gonna do one coat on there. Don't get it on the tip; you'll melt your tip. And it spreads all by itself, so you just put it on, it just spreads. It does its own job. So nothing else is really needed. Okay, so that's done. These are ready for dip. This is ready for gel. These are ready for acrylic. Okay, for your acrylic, we'll just get those done real quick. Hopefully I have enough liquid in here. Let's see where we're at from last week. Ah, perfect, okay. I'm just gonna do some clear. Okay, already primed. You could let it dry till it starts to turn white. That's what the manufacturer says you're supposed to do, and wait until the primer is completely dry and kind of turns whitish. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. Otherwise you can create like different chemical reactions, maybe get a little chemical burn. It does happen. Okay. So, and my liquid is a little thick from sitting from last week, but I still want to use it because it's still good. I'm just going to add a little more monomer to my dish. Okay, if you can see this in there. Okay. So they say if you dip in hard and you shake it all around, you're causing air bubbles, and those air bubbles will show up in your acrylic. So you don't want to be like hard and dipping fast and shaking up your liquids. So you can get your liquid, 1, 2, 3, 4. I use a huge brush. Not everyone uses an 18, 12s or smaller. A lot of technicians use a nice little ball. I'm going to put it on, and you're just going to wait. You can just wait because you got 30 to 60 seconds to move it around and get into shape anyway. If your ball is too thin, it's going to be a sloppy mess and just drip all over the place. If it's too dry, it's going to start drying immediately and curing, and you can't work with it, and now you have to file it all away. They say if you have to press down more than 3 to 4, 5 to 6 times, you're playing with your acrylic. That's what I heard in a workshop one time. So, nothing white on there. It's all liquid. It's all, good. So I'm going to put that on, and I can just wait. I got the nail kind of angled down. I don't want to turn it back the other way because that acrylic can kind of work backwards into the cuticle. You don't want that to happen. Yeah, it shouldn't be dripping off to the sides. It shouldn't be falling underneath. You shouldn't be getting all these acrylic balls underneath. That means you're not doing a good job. You shouldn't have a bunch on your towel. You can wipe, but even then, some technicians say if you're wiping a lot and you have a lot of liquid here, you're actually wasting product. For me, I probably wipe more than I should, and I probably do waste a little bit more product than I should, but that's just, years and years of doing it a certain way. Everyone is different. So I'm going back to the cuticle now. I'm gonna let that just kind of do its little thing. I can just wait a few seconds, and now I can work that, you know, into shape. Pulling that product down. I want to make sure there's no acrylics in the side here. If I just clean that up now and I get rid of now, that means it's going to be less sticking to the skin, easier shaping at the end and cleanup. And you know, we have a nice, you know, contour already. There's a nice thickness depending on the length. If the nail was full length, I would probably go almost double this thickness at the edge to really give them strength at the end. Otherwise, they're really looking to break their nails. If your nails are too thin, they're just simply going to break right off. Everything is by length of nails. And if a client says, oh, I want thin nails. Well, yeah, we can go as thin as we can. And if they want super thin nails on long nails, you have to tell them this is only temporary. It's going to last you a night. If you want them to last, we have to do them a minimum amount of thickness. And so we have a thickness guide, which we really need to follow to show for thin, regular thickness, or extra strength. And we charge extra for extra strength. This one is really regular. I just wanted to put a tiny bit more on the edge because I wasn't happy with the way that looked. And I just want to make sure that that tip is not so thin that it is going to break. So, okay, so now let's take a look here. The way to check for your thickness and uniformity after you're all done, put your finger here on your acrylic tip that's finished, and that'll help you look at the thickness. So this one's still wet. I really don't want to go into it, but if I just do this after it's dry, I can actually see the thickness of the nail. And what you want to do when you're checking them all at the end, you just want to see, oh, are they all the same thickness? If they're not, you've made a mistake and you need to go back and put a little bit more acrylic on there to do that. This one's pretty good. The tip is slightly thin, but I think we'll be okay. Now we're going to do that stiletto, and I'm going to do a stiletto with a client that's very busy. They work, let's say they work at a bar, they work with their hands, they're a bartender or a bar back, and they want thickness. So we're going to have to build this double the thickness because of their lifestyle. So that's why it's important to do a proper consultation and make sure that you are, you know about their lifestyle, what kind of work they do in order to give them the proper thickness. So this nail that we're doing now, we're doing a narrow coffin, but because this client just told me they work in a bar and they work with their hands and they're a bar back or they're a bartender, and they say that one of the problems they've always had is their nails break wherever they go. So what we can do is we can just simply make those nails double the thickness of the regular that we do. So I'm gonna build this one up with some extra layers. We're gonna make it a little thick without being clunky. You can have strong nails without being clunky looking. There is a way to do that, and as long as you have uniformity from front to back, you're doing great. And we're going all the way to the cuticle without getting it into the cuticle, about 1/8 of an inch away from the cuticle. If your acrylic is running into the cuticle, that's not a good job. So you can see here that we've gotten very close, but we're not into the cuticle. Still too thin on the edge because they're super busy, active lifestyle. So I'm just going to go ahead and build out the tip a little bit more, and we want to add some extra strength here. Put that little bit on, and we're going to feather that back, and I can keep doing that until I get the tip thickness that is desired. I like to build my nail, and if I need extra thickness, build back from the tip to give them the extra strength. Now that looks pretty good, but I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more. And let's see what it's going to be like. Oops. Now I'm really liking the way that this is coming out now. And I'm going to add a tiny bit more in the back to blend all that in. Now these are looking pretty strong. It looks pretty good. I like it. It's got a nice shape to it. Remember, you only have about 30 to 60 seconds to work it into place. Tap it or brush it, into place. I don't want to ruin my towel. Okay, let's add a tiny bit more in the back and this nail is done. Now no, if you're going to put gel on top of this too, that's going to make it appear a little bit thicker, but we're still going to do some filing and buffing. So you just don't want to have big old clunky nails unless a client says, I love thick nails. I want them to be thick and very fake looking. And actually I've had clients say that. So yeah, get what you want. Look at some pictures first, make sure you're really happy with that. So, okay. There's a way to achieve a nice, thick, strong nail without making it overly thick. I'm still going to file on that. I could add a little bit more right here if I wanted to. And look at that. Beautiful. Strong for a stiletto. Okay, next we're going to do a dip. If you're doing a color with your dip, can I get a color for a dip, please? Any color is good. Okay. So for your dip, if you don't have enough powder in your dip, then simply do this. You can simply scoop and sprinkle. Okay. So right now we've already been prepped, we cleaned, we did everything. So very important that you apply your base very carefully. If you get it on the skin and the cuticles, that's exactly where your powder is going to. You're gonna have a really messy look. So this actually requires a perfect polish application. So we're gonna put that on. And I'm going all the way, almost all the way back to the cuticle. I'm leaving an 1/8 of an inch space. Okay, sure. And yeah, we'll go ahead and dip. And so we dip and tap. Now, okay, now we're gonna let that dry for just a second. And say we're doing a color using a lot of the colored acrylics, like the Glam and Glitz, they're actually really thicker than the S&S dip, but even the S&S dip, they recommend you do a base coat with a clear. If you do a base coat with your clear powder, 2 coats of color, and another base coat, you're really getting into very chunky nails that look like little chiclets. So, we're not going to do that. We're just going to do 2 coats and the liquid top coat and call it a day to keep it from being overly thick. And that seems to be working really, really well. Okay, so we're going almost all the way to the back. And this one, I'm going to go ahead and do the sprinkle method. I'm just going to show you because sometimes you can dip it in there and it wrinkles if you're not careful. And look, dip and tap. Wow, amazing. So beautiful already. Okay, next, I think for this one, I'm going to get an S&S color. We're going to do this S&S color here on this one. Now I already put the clear on, and that's okay because S&S is pretty thin. So before you go on to your next coat, you do lightly dust, and you're not contaminating your other powders and your liquids. As far as I know, the state board is not letting us use a brush to dust the dip off. For everything else, yes, as far as I know. Okay, and now we're going to apply our next coat. Okay, let's try to dip and see what happens. But if you're not careful, you can get a wrinkle. So it's quick, in and out. We're looking pretty good. Tiny bit of wrinkling right here. And actually, I'm just going to go ahead and tap it with my finger just a tiny bit. And I want to lay that down a little bit so it looks a little better when I put the next coat on. Okay, and then we'll do this one here, next one. And really make sure that you get that liquid everywhere you want the powder, because otherwise you're going to get pockets of uncovered nail, and it's really hard to fix and go back and put that color on afterwards. So let's go ahead, and the sprinkle method's really nice. I really do like it. It's very clean and it's very neat, and I can just tap that finger, and there we go. We're ready for that one.
Hi, Paula.
Can you have Gabby set them up?
It's called, I'll tell you what it's called. Hi,
Okay,
how are you?
so now we'll do the next coat on the blue. We're gonna dust, okay, and let's go ahead and do this one here. Next coat on the blue. Okay, and we're gonna do the sprinkle method just because it's so easy, actually. I think I like it more than dipping. So there we have that. We're looking good. Okay, so I love the two colors, the two coats that we did. The S&S, even with the two there and the clear underneath, it's not too much. I think it's just enough. So you've done them all. You come through. We're going to dust, because otherwise that powder's getting into your liquid. We're going to dust. Now we're going to put the sealer on, and sealer is what cures your glue, makes everything, your resin, makes it all hard. So we're going to put our coat on now. That's the first one. I see a little irregularity in the color. That's because I tapped on that with my finger earlier. Just show you that tiny irregularity. And then now, okay, we're just going to wait. Say you've done them all. You wait about 30 to 60 seconds, and then they should be ready to file and buff. Okay. We're just going to be... If you file and buff too quickly, you're going to take off layers of your color, and it's going to start rolling off of the nail. So I'm going to be really careful right now because I really didn't give it a lot of time. Okay. And I'm not doing a lot. I'm just a tiny bit of prepping there. Okay. I'm going to take my buffer and we're going to smooth that down just a little bit. I think it's hard enough. But once again, if I apply too much pressure and it hasn't cured, your product's now rolling off the nail. And you're going to have some real problems and have to do it over. So really light, very gentle. I just want to make sure it's smooth so that top coat looks really beautiful and really smooth. Okay, so... Okay, so I am going to dust a little bit, get some of that dust off of there. Okay, and then we do the second coat of sealer is what we're going to do. And our sealer, second coat of sealer. So now we're doing second coat of sealer. And make sure all the way around and the edges. Don't be afraid to apply the product. It needs plenty of product all the way around, all the edges. Now the client's going to go away and wash their hands at the sink, but in lieu of that, I'm just going to do it with some water right here for demonstration purposes. Otherwise, send them away with a brush and some water. Water only. Clean them off. And now they say take a paper towel and blot dry, but you just want to dry that. Okay, now we're ready to put the top coat on. You're going to be doing two coats very quickly, and they're going to dry rapidly. The first coat will dry to a matte finish. The second will give you your glossy shine that will last 2 to 4 weeks. That's the first coat. Now, assuming you're doing all 10 fingers, it would take a little bit more time to come back around, so I'm just going to wait about 30 seconds before I put that next coat on. Okay.
It's pretty blue.
So we're just waiting to put that second one on, and we're going to see what's going to happen with this product as it's rapidly curing. And I want to show you up close here. You'll notice that it has a slight shine, but yet it's almost turning matte just a little bit. It's not quite fully glossy. That's why you need that second coat. Now, time for the second coat. Okay, so we're going to put that second coat on, making sure we get the entire nail and cap the edges. Entire nail, not on the skin, cap the edges. Now, do not have the client put their hand in front of the fan, because if dust flies through there, it's now on your glue forever and it's going to look terrible. You're going to have to buff it and redo it. Just have them dry naturally. If you have a heat lamp like I do, you can give them a little bit of heat and help them to dry that way. Do not spray oil dryer on them at this time. It will turn white, and make sure that nothing else gets on them, and they cannot touch them for 2 to 3 minutes. So this takes only 2 to 3 minutes. I like about 3 minutes to dry completely. If it's still tacky after 3 minutes, you forgot to put on the second coat of sealer or not enough product. Not enough sealer product. So we're going to wait and let that dry, and it'll be a very strong finish that will last literally just like a gel. But because this is basically a glue type product, they will ruin their nails if they get too much alcohol on them or something, or cleaning solvents like that. So they have to be careful with that. And that is your dip with one coat of clear natural set on the bottom, 2 coats of color, 2 top coats. This is only 2 coats of Glam and Glitz, and you can see, let's show the thickness here. Beautiful, natural, very strong, and that too. So and you notice for the acrylic here, I did the 3-ball method. I had 1, 2, 3. I paid attention to build up the stress area that has more acrylic here, more of a curve, and came down less into the cuticle and less to the front. I added 1 more small ball to the front to build that up. I did a 3-ball method here too, and then I built it up again and put another whole layer on of everything and additional at the tip to build that up. So I'm going to go ahead and just file this one. Make sure you get your edges and clean that up a bit before you're ready to polish. And hopefully that's dry. Okay. We're going to do our final shape here. Really getting underneath, making sure there's none of these papery edges under there. You shouldn't have any acrylic underhangs or any papery edges at all. Now I'll take my e-file and we're going to do a final shape before a buff. I'm going to clean up that cuticle area. We're just going to go around the cuticle, make sure that's nice and clean around there, and work on any final contouring. Just like that. The same with your next one. We're just getting around the cuticle area. I don't want to take off too much acrylic because this particular client needed them stronger because they work, have very heavy-handed with their hands. Okay. We have a beautiful contour, a beautiful shape. We're going to finish that up with our orange buffer. Make sure you take your edges off of your orange buffer with a file because they are sharp. Okay. And if I have more irregularities, I'll use the rougher side first. We're going to take those off, just if you need to do a little extra buffing on there. You maybe weren't quite happy with the shape. And this helps you with your contour from side to side, not taking off too much off the top. We're going side to side. I'm not going straight on. Side to side. And we're going to get underneath. Take your firmer side, your rougher side, get underneath to get any papery edges off. Make sure you get your edges here, edges here. You want to make sure there's nothing attached to the skin on the cuticle on the sides. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and take my orange buffer on the smoother side, a finer grit, and I'm going to go ahead and prep this a little more. Okay, and so at the end, when your dip is finished, you're going to go ahead and put on your cuticle oil all the way at the end. And we did a drop here and a drop here. We're ready. Those are done. And if we were doing the gel manicure, we would scrub fresh, base coat 30 seconds, color 30 seconds, another color 30 seconds, top coat 30 seconds, alcohol, 90% alcohol, take the sticky layer off, and then cuticle oil, all finished. Okay, so that is done. And for fun, let's just go ahead and do some of this little fun Northern Lights sparkle on here. I'm going to go ahead and say if this client was getting regular polish on acrylic, like I'm going to do, you would just put your oil on and your massage cream, send them away to wash afterwards, come back. We've moisturized the cuticle. It's all ready to go. They've washed at the sink, but I'll wash them here. And for if they're doing gel, we'll always put the oil on at the end. So we're just going to pretend they just washed at the sink. A little cleanup with a paper towel. But before I do any polish anyway, I'm still going to go ahead and clean that with a little bit of alcohol, and to make sure there's no acrylic on the nail there. And look at that. Okay, just for fun, let's put on a little Northern Lights on this one, just for fun. Just a little sparkle, just to do something on this one. Okay. So say this client originally thought they were going to have colored polish, and at the end they say, oh, you know what? I just want to go clear with a little sparkle. Now, if the nail wasn't built properly in the beginning and there's problems with that acrylic or the way the tip was applied, it's all going to show through. So you really want to make sure that you prep it and be ready for whatever the client would want to do, whether they're getting a fill or whether they're getting a brand new full set. So, okay. And for the next one, let's go ahead and clean that up and put on a little gel polish on there and see what it looks like. And just because we want to be more difficult, let's put white on there. Okay, so, okay. All right, and let's go. Okay, we already cleansed the nail. We're gonna do base coat. Nice thin layer. Base coat. All right, and we're gonna cure for 30 seconds. Now, the manufacturers they used to say that you need a little more time for black or white or any colors that are really heavy pigmented. And although our newer lamps are really powerful, I still like to do a little bit more. So I'm going to set my lamp to 45 seconds because there's so much pigment in these colors. So make sure you put on a nice, thin, even color layer, strokes. kind of feathering it on. Make sure you get your edges. Got a little on the skin. I'm going to clean it off right now with, oh, what I did. Give me a little boo-boo. Okay. Fix that right up. Okay, and we're going to go in the light. White and all creams and pastels are the hardest colors to apply. If you're not careful and don't float them on in either two very thin layers, you will get stripes and striations and dark spots and shadows. You may have to apply a third coat for all pastel colors in a very light method in which you float the color on very gently from the cuticle to the tip in an all evenly. If you press too hard on your pastels, you will get irregularities that will not come out and continue to show through because of their translucent nature. Okay, I'm going to go on. We're going to go on to our next coat. A lot of technicians struggle with white and getting it to look good only because they're starting with a terrible base. Either they did not get a smooth finish on the nail before they applied their base coat, or their base coat was too thick and it wrinkled up, and that's all going to show through on the top of the nail. Now sometimes you may get little problems and something happens. Polish was too thick, you put it on too thick, it didn't cure properly, you got little wrinkles. You can stop at that point, wipe it with your 90% alcohol, take a buffer, buff it and smooth it down, apply another base coat if needed, and another coat or two of color, because you can actually buff down gel polish that's too thick. Okay, back in. You don't necessarily have to remove all of your gel color if you've made a mistake. You can, because it is very hard once it cures, if it's been cured properly, you can buff it and smooth irregularities out in an attempt to fix it without taking it all off. Now I'm going to see if I like the way her nail looks after the second coat, if it's smooth and if it's evenly covered, or if it really needs that third coat to be give it that nice even look. Okay. All right. I'm somewhat happy with that. I see a tiny little dot here. It looks like there was some little tiny dust or maybe some salt or sugar that got in there, or just little dust particles. That'll probably cover up. But I'm going to go ahead and do one more coat just to see what that looks like. And let's just do one more coat of white. Now it's really coming together. I like that a lot better. There was some little shadows that needed to be covered up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put that back in. And then we'll finish with the top coat. And your choice, either a no wipe or a regular top coat. And for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and just put a no cleanse on. If I have enough in here, which I don't. Okay. Okay, so final top coat. Okay, so I'm going to show you what it looks like before we put the top coat on. And we've got a beautiful, smooth, nice. You have to be very careful with your top coats with your no wipe, because they can separate on the nail and create these little tiny pools on the nail and little divots. So they really kind of work with your own body heat. And if it's very cold out, they're going to start separating on top of the nail and pulling apart a little bit, creating an uneven look. So before you cure your no wipe, you really have to look over all the nails and make sure they're not separating. Like, I want to show you a separation. So here we've got some that's slightly pulling away. Right there you can see. So what I need to do is just apply a little more product and let it kind of naturally be solid. And and this requires a feathering on of the product like this. And then if we just wait, now it really works better when you're doing all of the nails. Now this one looks good. It's not pulling or separating. I see a tiny divot there, but so I need to fix it. Yeah, it can be very tricky when applying these here. So you want to just make sure you get them on good. You don't want to have any separation. Okay, go ahead into the light. There we go. So well, hopefully that won't separate. Okay, let's see how it came out. Okay, I think we have success. So with this one here, we didn't get any separation. It's beautiful. And now we do need to apply some cuticle oil. And then we'd apply hand cream and we'd be done with that. So this one could use a little extra gloss. That Northern Lights, I'd like to see it more glossy. Okay, so let's take a look at our finished product. Here we go. One dip with S&S. I had a slight irregularity here. As you can see, it's very minor, but it is noticeable. That was from when I touched it and tried to smooth it down. To fix that, I should have put one more coat of color that would have camouflaged that. We have our Northern Lights, clear, very beautiful, very natural. We have our white gel, very nice, and a stiletto, it's strong. And then we have our dip in Glam and Glitz, and we didn't do anything with this one. And with this one, we just prepped it and did a base coat. So that's all we did there. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed your tutorial, and we'll see you next time at Harmony Workshop.